This video will show you exactly how to use AI writing software such as ChatGPT and Grok to gain a deeper understanding of the topics that you're writing about and to create arguments in favor of your ideas, which are logically sound, but also compelling and engaging to listen to. If that sounds good, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we'll get right into the tutorial. By way of a quick preface, a lot of freelance writers and marketers and people who have previously been successful at making money online by writing content for blogs and other websites, a lot of us have noticed that it's a lot more difficult to make money selling articles than it used to be. Now, if you're able to pivot when that kind of thing happens and find the most efficient way of using your existing skills and experience to continue to provide value to your clients and to find new clients, then that isn't a huge problem for you. But when the market changes and you don't change with it, it can definitely be difficult to find enough work if the types of clients that you used to get don't see the same amount of value in the work that you used to provide. But one of the ways of getting paid to write articles that is still definitely lucrative is writing opinion pieces and research pieces on topics that are currently big in the news and that a lot of people care about or are interested in. And if you have some sort of expert status, even if it's just like a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in a specific topic or a significant amount of experience in that area, then you might be able to get paid to write articles that are basically short essays arguing for or against specific ideas. And in order to do that, you have to be really good at coming up with a solid idea that you can defend logically, but in a way that's also interesting to read. And you need to be able to research and address and argue against other subject matter experts who may not agree with you. And I've found a really good way to do this type of thing with Grok, and it also worked with ChatGPT. And so we're going to go through an example of how to do this. We're going to look at both Grok and ChatGPT. In my opinion, Grok is better for research and sort of overall learning, especially when it comes to things that are more current, like today we're working with a current news story. ChatGPT does that fairly well, but ChatGPT is much better for content writing or for copywriting, for writing the actual text that you're going to use. Grok is kind of awkward as a writing assistant, but it's very, very good as a research assistant, whereas ChatGPT is kind of the opposite. I don't like it as much for research, especially for current events, but it is really good at writing content. And with that in mind, I highly recommend that you follow the link in the description so that you can get access to my free ChatGPT marketing prompt spreadsheet, which you're seeing right here. There's currently 26 prompts in here, which you can use for all different types of marketing and business work, as well as other prompts that are just specific to writing and getting ChatGPT to output really good content or copy when you use it. And you can also use these prompts with other AI software such as Grok or others. And so if you just follow the link in the description, you'll be able to sign up for my email list and get access to this spreadsheet. And then I'll email you every time that I add new prompts to it. And I haven't added any of the prompts that we're going to be using today yet, but I'll definitely put in a few of them so that you have easy access to those as well. All right, so we're back here looking at Grok, and here is the ChatGPT version. And the news story that we're working with is about this research company where some scientists used some unconventional methods with really advanced satellite-based radar, and they believe that they got a clearer look at what is under the pyramids in Giza than has ever been done before with any type of imaging or excavation. And so they made some pretty wild claims about what's under there, and it's a big news story. And so, of course, people have commented in favor of it or against it. As far as I can see, it looks like most of the experts are calling it fake news or saying that it's just exaggerated or that they're misreading the data or that their equipment can't do what they're saying it can do. And I don't really have an opinion on this either way. I don't pay enough attention to this kind of thing to really have an opinion, but I do find it interesting. So it's just a story that I'm aware of. And I figured since there's definitely passion on both sides, it would be a good example to use for how to improve the persuasive arguments in your writing. And I used the exact same commands in both chatbots as much as possible. So I started with, there have been some new claims around what might be hidden beneath the pyramids of Egypt. Summarize the news and cite quotations from experts related to the story. And both Grok and ChatGPT did really the same thing here. They just gave me a huge block of thick paragraphs and then some links to sources. ChatGPT put the sources at the bottom. Grok put the sources at the top. And they actually both have some really cool features for research when you're doing this. So Grok puts its X posts and its web pages at the top. And if you click on either of them, then it opens over in the side here. So it's just really easy to access these. And in ChatGPT, after each paragraph, it puts the sources, and you can hover over the source and it'll highlight the part that the source is related to. And then, of course, you can open it there just like in Grok. And then it also adds links to the stories at the bottom with a little thumbnail here. And then because they both just gave me like a bunch of raw text that was kind of thick and difficult to read, I asked them both, please summarize the info in an easy to read, skimmable manner with formatting, lists, and other human-friendly considerations. And they both did a good job of that, but ChatGPT's is much less detailed and much more kind of showy with these emojis, whereas Grok's is much more kind of utilitarian. It didn't use emoji, but it did include a lot more information, and specifically it included quotes, which is something I was looking for. And then the next prompt that I used for both of them is do some deep research and find the best possible arguments and supporting information in favor of this being true. Do not exaggerate or fabricate anything, but provide the best possible reasoning for it likely to be true, or it being likely to be true, as well as counter arguments against all points made by the skeptics. Readable formatting, please. And by the way, this is ChatGPT Premium versus Grok Premium. I am using the free version of ChatGPT, but it gives you a certain amount of free premium usage every day. So I used the premium ChatGPT for this, and I think that Grok is only available in its premium model, and I have access to that. So this is the most advanced current version of both. And I specified that I want it to do deep research, but in Grok, it actually has a deep search function. So when I did this command, I clicked right here to turn deep search on. And then after it had completed this, see, it took like almost a minute and a half. It went through 68 sources, which is way more than it normally would. And then after it had done that, I just turned deep search off to continue with my next prompts. And so it gave me a nice summary of key points and news. It gave me the expert quotations, both from the scientists that are working on this project, so those that are making arguments in favor of this being true, and the experts who are making arguments against it being true. And then it gave me a whole bunch of other detailed information, which for the most part went a lot deeper than I needed it to, but it could certainly be useful if I was actually writing a paper on this. And ChatGPT was definitely less detailed and less precise, but it did do a nice job with the skeptic points and then the counterpoints here, so I really appreciated that. That would be really easy to turn into a piece of content. And then because ChatGPT didn't really do as much with real quotations, I asked it to cite specific quotations from the skeptics and provide logical counterarguments, and then it did a good job of that. So I just had to put in an extra command in order to kind of get it to go the extra mile. And so the commands that we've used so far are basically just to get a really well-rounded understanding of what everyone's saying, what the arguments in favor of it and against it are, and what the facts actually are. And so I've established that very well so far. And now I'm going to move into prompts that are more designed to create compelling arguments and to help me explore different aspects of perspectives that different people will take on this. So the first prompt I used here is write a 1 to 5 sentence thesis statement making the case for this news being true. Write one in the voice of Joe Rogan, another as Graham Hancock, and a third as Neil deGrasse Tyson, begrudgingly admitting that this may well be likely to be true based on the evidence. And Graham Hancock is kind of one of the foremost alternate history, hidden ancient secrets experts type of guys. Joe Rogan is, of course, a very popular podcaster who likes to talk about this type of thing. And Neil deGrasse Tyson is a scientist and content creator who typically would be on the other side of an argument like this. So I thought it would be interesting to get the AI to write an argument from him in favor of it. And I actually really like the Neil deGrasse Tyson output from ChatGPT. It says, all right, I'll say this, if the data holds up and these subsurface anomalies truly show organized artificial structures, then we have to consider the possibility that something was built beneath the pyramids that we haven't accounted for. I remain skeptical because extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, but technology has surprised us before. So this was actually really interesting, and each of them went into unique kind of points and arguments and ways of looking at things, which could inform my writing going forward. And then I asked Grok and ChatGPT each to argue in favor of digging to prove or disprove this in the voice of 3 prominent Canadian politicians and 3 prominent American politicians. And I told it to base their argument on the AI's knowledge of them. So I didn't tell it which politicians to choose, and I didn't tell it which politicians should be for or against it. I just said, write statements from the voice of these politicians. And so ChatGPT gave me Donald Trump in favor of digging, Barack Obama cautiously against digging, and Bernie Sanders against digging. And for Canada, it gave me Pierre Poilievre in favor of digging, Justin Trudeau cautiously against digging, and Jagmeet Singh against digging. So overall, it did a pretty good job here, but Justin Trudeau is no longer the Prime Minister of Canada, so he's not really relevant. It would have been better to include someone else there. And then Grok made some interestingly different choices. For American politicians, it chose Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or AOC, who it put in favor of digging, and then Ted Cruz, who it put against digging, and Rand Paul in favor of digging. And then for Canadian politicians, it also used Justin Trudeau, but in favor of digging, Pierre Poilievre against digging, and Jagmeet Singh in favor of digging. So it's interesting that ChatGPT seems to think that the left-leaning politicians would be against digging and the right-leaning politicians would be in favor of digging. And Grok seems to think the exact opposite. It seems to think that the left-leaning politicians would be in favor of digging and the right-leaning politicians would be against digging. And obviously a politician's opinion on this type of thing doesn't really matter that much, but I thought it would be interesting to see what the AI thought different politicians would say if they were asked if they support the idea of digging in Egypt or not. And then I wanted to get a little bit more silly and also get deeper into some really unique insights and ideas. So I said, script a 2-minute debate between AOC and Ted Cruz on this topic, because those were two American politicians that Grok suggested with opposing viewpoints. And in ChatGPT, I said, script a 2-minute debate between Poilievre and Singh on this topic, which are two Canadian politicians that it put with opposing opinions. And these scripts turned out quite interesting. After that, I asked both chatbots to script a 2-minute debate between Hawass, which is one of the experts that argued against this story being true, and Hancock, who is one of the guys who would probably be in favor of it. And it actually did quite a good job of saying the types of things that they would probably say. And then the last thing I tried before I moved to my writing prompt was list all hard data that supports the possibility of this story being true. And Grok gave me a really great list with sources cited here, showing exactly why I prefer Grok for research. And ChatGPT also did a really solid job here. And then the last prompt that I used in both cases was write a 300-word article that makes a strong argument for the possibility that this story is true, while acknowledging that the current claims aren't enough evidence to be sure. Cite the most relevant supporting facts and swift, simple counters to the arguments posited by skeptics. Write in a concise and professional manner with style and elegance. And this is where ChatGPT really got to show off, because ChatGPT wrote me this nice, tight, concise little piece that did a great job of kind of summarizing the points and being cautiously optimistic about the idea that this could be true. And Grok did a good job of putting the right information in there, but as you can see, it's just like two massive paragraphs and then a smaller paragraph. It's not very well formatted. And that's why I was saying I don't really like using Grok for writing, because it's a struggle to get it to write content properly. Whereas with ChatGPT, it's very easy to get it to write content properly. And that makes sense because OpenAI's GPT models were some of the earliest ones. And the main function that they've been training it from the beginning is to make it really good at writing content and copy. So it's been trained on a lot of that, and it's been refined a lot for that. Whereas Grok is primarily designed as an AI assistant. So it's really good at researching things and finding you not just the right information, but the most current information. And I really like its deep search function. So ultimately, they're both great tools. I prefer Grok a little bit more for personal tasks and research and learning, and ChatGPT I definitely prefer more for writing. But I use both of these all the time. And this is a fun little image that I had Grok generate, and I might use this or something like it in the thumbnail. So that brings us to the end of this video. Let me know if you have any comments or if you have any ideas for this type of process that I didn't mention here. Remember to use the link in the description to sign up for my email list and get your copy of my ChatGPT marketing prompts spreadsheet. And if you have a request for an upcoming tutorial, you can leave it in the comments or just send me an email. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.